You fighting in the Falklands War?
Yeah, I was on HMS Hermes. We spent the whole time there.
How would you explain the Falklands to the listeners out there?
Well, it's definitely not north of Scotland,
yeah.
Which I thought it was, but... At 16, I went straight in the military, in the Royal Navy for 6 years. Finally got there, I think the day HMS Sheffield was sunk was the day we realised this wasn't a joke anymore. You know, there was 28 dead, and then I actually became a firefighter. My first rescue was, believe it or not, Christmas morning, 5 o'clock.
So the next movement from there, getting into the club world. Name some of the biggest DJs you've booked for Pacha over the years.
The Swedish House Mafia. Calvin, the first time he played for us, I think, was for 500 quid. David Guetta's probably gone on to be the biggest star.
What's the most amount of money you've spent on a DJ for one night?
The most amount of money for one night would be...
Danny, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, very much looking forward to this one. We're on, well, as everyone knows, we're on the island of Ibiza. We're doing an Ibiza series right now, and we've got the wonderful guest Danny coming in today, which is fantastic. So let's roll all the way back, Danny. What was the first time you ever came to Ibiza?
Well, the first time I actually came on holiday in the late 70s, just prior to joining the military, and then I came back, I suppose, to work for the first time in about 1995.
Yeah.
We did a Renaissance show with Manumission at Coup at the time.
So for the listeners out there, Coup Nightclub on the island was massive back in the day.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, it's 10,000 people,
yeah.
You know, and it turned into Privilege after a while. And now it's been redone again, and we'll reopen, I think, next year's Universe with the guys from High and Ushuaia.
Oh, wow.
Which will be incredible. But yeah, it was a huge venue. I mean, I'd never been a venue that size, and we were hanging clouds up in the roof of the building on these rickety ladders. I mean, health and safety out the window, as you can imagine. And bringing in some of the biggest DJs in the world at the time. So that was my real first experience of working and living in Ibiza.
Amazing. What was the first thing? What was the catalyst that made you come to Ibiza to make you go, you know what, I want a piece of the action out here in the 90s? Because in the 90s, it was kind of anything went really on the island. What was it that made you go, I want to actually be working out there?
Yeah, well, I was working for a company called Renaissance at the time, which was a big touring, electronic music touring company and record label. And we had DJs like Sasha and John Digweed and Carl Cox and so on playing for us. Then we got offered to come out and do an event here in Ibiza, because the UK scene was blowing up in Ibiza. It was how they were filling their clubs at that time. If you got a big promoter in like Cream or Ministry of Sound or Renaissance or Manumission, the clubs were packed. So the Spanish club owners were bringing out UK promoters. Yeah. So it was more them bringing us out here than me particularly wanting to come out here. It was only after when I came out here and had such a great time and just instantly fell in love with the island that I knew at some point I'd got to live here, you know?
Yeah. Were you a promoter at heart, or would you have a different background to make you get into the dance world?
No, I had a totally different background. I mean, it's just at 16, I went straight in the military. I was in the Fleet Air Arm in the Royal Navy for 6 years, and then I actually became a firefighter for 10 years when I left the military. Just after the Falklands War, I left the military, and then fought fires for 10 years, and then unfortunately I had to leave the fire brigade because of problems with my eyes. I kept getting these recurring ulcers in my eye, corneal ulcers, and then I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I mean, I went to the job centre, and the woman said, well, what do you want to do? You know, what job do you want to do? So I spent 6 years on an aircraft carrier and 10 years fighting fires. What do you think I want to do? You know, give me something with some adrenaline at least.
Yeah.
So she was really nice, actually. She said, go away for 6 months. We'll send you a check, get your head together, come back when you're ready, and we'll discuss again, which was lovely. Yeah. It just so happened that within a month, one of my friends that owned Renaissance offered me the job to do their logistics and sort of festivals and events. And I said, well, is there a buzz with it? And he said, well, if you've got 20,000 people trying to get into a festival at midday, you better be ready to go, right? So I thought, okay, I'll try that.
Yeah.
And I always loved music. I mean, music was my savior in the military. You know, at that time, I mean, there's no emails or computers or stuff like that. You had a Sony Walkman and you listened to music when you weren't working in your bunk, you know. So, and I adored music. So that transition then into a world that was very cowboy. I mean, it was the Wild West. Yeah. Electronic music, at the end, electronic music started off with people selling drugs. I mean, ultimately, that's what the scene was.
Yeah.
At a point when Ecstasy wasn't even really listed as illegal, I believe, in the mid-'80s and early 80s and so on. So one of the nice parts of being in this industry is I've grown up with the industry. I remember when it didn't exist, there was no electronic music industry, and now it's worth about 12 billion a year. So it was a nice evolution. So yeah, no, my past was very different than electronic music.
I just want to roll back a little bit there. You said you were in the Falklands. Were you fighting in the Falklands War?
Yeah, I was on HMS Hermes.
Wow.
We worked on Commando Squadron of Sea Kings, and you know, we spent the whole time there. We went from the very beginning till the end. Saw a few missiles fly past my ship. One of them, in fact, two of them sunk Atlantic Conveyor, which was about half a mile away when it got sunk.
How old were you when you were out there?
I was 19 at that point.
You were 19. You did that for 6 years.
I did military for 6 years. Yeah.
And how long were you actually out in the Falklands for?
I think it was 6 months.
Bloody hell.
Start to finish. Yeah.
How would you explain the Falklands to the listeners out there?
Well, it's definitely not north of Scotland, which I thought it was when the careers guys. I was actually changing it was Easter leave, and I was changing the clutch on my Fiat X19 at the time. And my mum came out into the backyard saying, "Danny, there's two guys in uniform." And I was like, "Oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah,
I've done something wrong. I've messed up here." And they said, "Listen, you got 24 hours, get back on board ship, or you'll be classed as a deserter." And I'd seen something on the news about the Falklands, and instantly I thought that was the Orkneys, something in Scotland. And then when I looked it up, I saw what it was. And then, of course, we got called back. And all the way there, sailing there, we just thought, okay, they're going to sort this. They're going to fix it, And we got to the Ascension Islands, which is sort of halfway there. Was the first time we went to action stations for real, because they detected some stuff. We thought it was Argentinian submarines, and it ended up being Wales, but it was the first time the klaxons went, hands to action stations, so on and so forth, and this real buzz hits you. And, it's one thing now, having been in that situation, having gone to action stations sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, military training is incredible. I mean, you really take over, and there is very little room for not doing what you're trained to do. You just do it. It's like clockwork. So, hats off to the military trainers for sure.
What was your mindset like? 19, or you're out there for 6 months, where you must have been in your 20s at that time. What was your mindset like, knowing you're going to war?
Yeah, well, like I say, on the way there, we didn't believe it. You're like, well, the politicians will work this out. And then when we finally got there, I think the day HMS Sheffield was sunk was the day we realised this wasn't a joke anymore. There was 28 dead. One of our destroyers went down with HMS Sheffield, and it just went on from there. I think we lost about 8 ships in 6 months. I think we lost more men in the Falklands in 5 months than we did in Afghanistan in 20 years.
Is that right?
So yeah, it's a brutal little war.
Wow.
It really was a brutal little war. Yeah.
What was your day-to-day there?
12 hours on, 12 hours off, and we had 22 SAS D Squadron on board. We were hot bunking with them, basically. But our ship was at 3,000 people. It was normally for about 1,800. Right. So we were literally hot bunking it. Obviously hot bunking because the bed never gets cold. Yep. You get out, they get in. And we had obviously Royal Marines on board. We had all the Commando Squadrons, Sea Harriers, some RAF Harriers. So it was just round the clock working. And if you weren't, even when you weren't working, if you went to action stations, you had to get to your place of work. Or if you were too slow doing it or whatever, then you had to hunker down wherever you were. So it's scary when, one day we were up on the flight deck and loading a depth charge onto a Sea King, and we came under attack. And a good friend of mine, Dean Benigman, who also actually went out to become a fireman after, we went hands to action stations. Then we went to quarter stand 2, which means there's a missile released and it's coming in at you. And I was on the floor and I looked at Bedders and he was just running round in a circle. And I was like, Bedders, what are you doing? And he said, I'm just running, and these stupid giggles take over. Yeah. I understand what trench humor is. Yeah. Anybody who's been in that situation understands that it's a situation where you either laugh or you cry, and mostly you laugh, and it sounds stupid, but it is a really nervous giggle and it just takes over you. So, it was a strange time for sure.
So you did that 6 years, you moved on, military, then went into the firefighter. You did that for 10 years. Why straight into as a firefighter?
You know, coming out of the military, it's sort of a natural move. I didn't want to go. It was either police or fire brigade. I didn't particularly fancy the police. So I was, you know, sort of in the middle of that. The fire brigade, I think, having witnessed a bit of death and destruction, I thought the idea of actually helping people really resonated with me. It really helped me to think forward and not think back. You know, I think a lot of guys that suffer with PTSD, I mean, I may be wrong, and somebody may correct me, but I think one of the problems is they tend to dwell in the past, and they keep thinking and reliving and going over in the mind, and sometimes that's either via dreams or just themselves. I think if you can, and you're lucky enough to move forward, certainly in a job like the fire brigade, you tend to think of the future. I mean, we were doing over 1,000 calls a year at my fire station in Longton, next to the M6, lots of M6 car pile-ups and smoke. At the time, you got to remember, early 80s, people were smoking in bed. There were, you know, chip pan fires. I mean, there was a lot more fires than there is these days. There wasn't the safety precautions, the smoke alarms, stuff like that. So it was a little bit more fierce. And I think going into that kind of job really helped me to refocus, you know, and there's nothing like pulling somebody out of a fire, really. It's an incredible feeling when my first rescue was, believe it or not, Christmas morning, 5 o'clock. I pulled a young girl out that was unconscious in bed. Her boyfriend had gone off to work down the coal mines, and me and a guy called Dave Clough went in and breathing apparatus and pulled her out and saved her life. And you know, it's a real great feeling. And I think any fireman would tell you that. You know,
is there one moment when you're in the fire brigade where you thought, God, I'm close to losing my life here?
Yeah, a few times actually. You know, the hardest things about fires are the big fires, the warehouses, the factories, the things like that, because you can't see a hand in front of your face. You know, I mean, you're really, you know, relying on guidelines and so on, and trying picking up sounds and noises, but in any fire, I mean, you could literally walk into a fire. It's that dark, it's that smoky, and it's not even like a darkness. It's you're enveloped in the smoke, so you could almost walk into the fire, and that's why they always advise you to have some skin exposed, so you can feel the heat. If you actually covered your entire body, then there's a good chance you would literally walk into the middle of a fire. And you obviously need to stand off a fire to fight it. So the other thing is, when you hit a fire with water, certainly in an enclosed space, then what comes back at you is like a superheated steam. Right. And that's just like being boiled. So again, you really need to judge what you're doing. But yeah, a few times where I've thought, my God, I'm lost here. I don't know how to get out. You know, and then remember, oh, got a guideline, okay, I've got to go that way, or it can be scary, but again, great training. You know, it's another thing where that muscle memory, and you've done something often enough that you can keep your cool and deal with it. But and that's down, like the military. I think fire brigade training is second to none. Yeah,
totally. So the next movement from there, getting into the club world, you mentioned Renaissance. Explain to the listener what Renaissance was back in the day.
Well, Renaissance was like a brilliant promoter. You know, I think anybody who knows electronic music, they brought out the very first mixed CD compilation by Sasha and Digweed. It really started the ball rolling with, you know, people buying CDs that were electronic music. They did shows all over. We were doing shows in Dublin and London, at the Old Cross in London and King's Cross. I used to do that once a month. Dublin, the Tunnel in Glasgow. And then all over the UK, we were doing gigs, sometimes 3-4 gigs a week, going to different clubs. Because at the time, what you got to remember, what really happened then as well, the raves became illegal. And
so we're talking early 90s here.
Yeah, you're talking early 90s. And what really happened there is when the raves became illegal, it saved the lives of nightclubs. Because at that time, nightclubs were dying. They were on their ass because everybody was going to the raves. And then when they made them illegal, the DJs and the promoters had to move into nightclubs where they could do that. They could deliver their product legally, and it breathed new life into nightclubs. Suddenly nightclubs like Cream, Ministry of Sound, you know, these clubs were opening up, and they were huge, you know, and probably 5 years before, there was clubs that were only 1,000 capacity, getting like 100 people, 200 people in them. So that was a real switch in the industry there.
So you were working with the promoter Renaissance. What was your actual role in that back then?
I started off doing logistics with them. So it was, if we were doing a festival, it'd be all the stage, the lights, the sound, the tents, all the rest of it. Then I also evolved into booking DJs, working with my ideas of design, of marketing and so on. So I sort of evolved with the business. And what I found, to be honest, I suppose having military and fire brigade training, I brought a real level of professionalism
and discipline
to an industry that was the Wild West. I mean, they were cowboys. Half the time they weren't getting out of bed in the morning, they weren't delivering what I was doing was blatantly getting out of bed in the morning and making our stuff happen. So, and I think that's why me and Jeff, the owner from Renaissance, got on so well, that he really trusted that if I said I'm going to go down to the Cross and we're going to deck it out, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and we're going to open at 10 o'clock Saturday night, he knew it would get done. And that was the same consistently. So, and I think what's happened now with electronic music is it has become much more professional. I know with our music conference that we do, you can see there's a whole new level of people working within electronic music now. It isn't just a bunch of guys that thought, I know, let's do something, Yeah.
What was your movements then with Renaissance to get you out into Ibiza? Were you working with Renaissance at the time to get yourself out to Ibiza, or did you flip to another promoter or another club?
No, I was working with Renaissance at the time, and Jeff said, do you want to go to Ibiza? We've been offered this gig. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, let's go. Like, it's 10,000 people. It's a huge club. That's okay. We took this big Luton van, filled it full of decor and production and bits and bobs. And then we got out here and decked the club out. We had these massive fake clouds, sort of aluminium frame with chicken wire, but then covered in this white sort of fluffy stuff. And we dropped these arc lines in them, and we put them all, and then it looked like a thunderstorm, like all the lightning flashing through the clouds. So it looked really impressive, even though it was really sort of, tin pot, really. But it, with the lights off, it looked amazing. But,
and that was at Coup Club, was it?
That was at Coup, yeah.
That was a special club, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was it a 10,000 capacity?
That was 10,000 cap with a swimming pool. And, and Manumission at the time was absolutely crazy. I mean, all sorts of shit were going on there, It was mad.
So when you come out here, you I want a bit more of this. I fancy Ibiza. I like this. And you've stayed ever since? Yeah,
well, no. I mean, then what happened, I went back, and then the following year, I got offered by Ministry of Sound to come out and run Ministry of Sound events out here. So I left Renaissance. I went with Ministry of Sound. I was running Friday nights in Pacha, and I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with Pacha massively. It was such an iconic, space, and there's such an amazing history behind it. I got on really well with the owners.
Who are the owners?
A guy called Ricardo Urgel, the Urgel family, originally from Barcelona.
Okay.
Sitges. The first ever Pacha was actually in Sitges, just outside Barcelona. I think they were 50 years old last year. The whole.
That's right.
Yeah. So
they started established in 1973, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So what rough year were you working out on the Pacha then for Ministry? Was it 93 again?
No, it was 94? No, way later. Then we're looking at sort of 97.
97, okay.
98, and then I went to a company called Home. I can remember when they opened that nightclub in Leicester Square. I was doing their event, so I was doing Homelands events, outdoor events. I also did Bondi Beach for the Millennium with Carl Cox. 20,000 people on Bondi Beach, which was an amazing event. And
who put you out there?
Home.
Home did, okay.
I was working with a guy called Darren Hughes, who used to run Cream with James Barton.
Yep.
And they sent me out there to actually look at a space that they thought we could do, which was a 15 cap exhibition hall. And I rung Darren up. I said, mate, nobody wants to come to Sydney and stand in an exhibition hall. Let me find another venue. And it just so happened, he said, okay, stay out there. And within a week, I'd found Bondi Beach. And we pushed and got the license for it. And it sold out in about 2 weeks. Yeah, we were very happy.
Amazing. Yeah. Let's go back to the Pacha. I'm really interested in the whole Pacha story. So you went there, 96, 97 roughly, did you say?
Yeah, 97, 98.
And what made you go to Pacha? Did you go there full time?
No, so then what happened is when I'd done Bondi Beach, which was January 2000, I got a call from the old man from Ricardo saying, do you want to come out and live in Ibiza and program the whole club? Because he could see everything I'd done on Ibiza had worked really, really well. Yeah. And at the time, Pacha was only busy like 1 night a week, 2 nights a week. Ministry of Sound and Renaissance. The rest were rubbish. And he said, why don't you come out and program the club? And I was like, okay, I'm going. That's it. I'm out of here. And I remember the company in London. We were based in Vauxhall at the time. I said, I'm going to go live in Ibiza. And they were like, oh, Danny, you won't like it. And I looked around and goes, nah, I think I will. Yeah, so then I moved out and then I had this mission. My mission was, believe it or not, to sort of try and get rid of the promoters from Pacha.
Okay.
And the reason I needed to do that is because I could see that Pacha in itself was its own brand. I could see that, I mean, at that time we had 12 franchises around the world. And I knew that we needed the relationship between the DJs and the managers and the artists. Yeah. And we didn't need the middleman. So what I did is I started to give DJs their own residency. Okay. Rather than it being Ministry of Sound giving David Morales a residency.
And rather than Ministry taking the door money, you're going to, let's bring it in-house.
Exactly.
And were you thinking, right, I've got a club here, which is everyone's raving about and loving. I could open this up 6-7 nights a week.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, it was open 7 nights a week. The problem was 5 of them, it was half empty.
Yeah.
So I went in for things like Perfecto, Paul Oakenfold. I gave him his own residency. Death Mix, which was the record label with David Morales, Frankie Knuckles, all that crew, give them their residency. Darren Emerson from Underworld give a residency. Murillo from Subliminal. So in the end, what I ended up with was sort of 7 nights that were very much run by the DJs themselves.
Yeah.
And the agents and the managers really liked that because what it did is it started to allow the DJs to create their own brand. Yeah. It started allowing the DJs to work with guests and DJs that they would like to work with, rather than just being stuck on a bill with other DJs. Yeah. Now, Paul Oakenfold, for example, could invite the people he wanted to DJ with. And it also gave them power with regards to if they were touring their own show, they could invite DJs to play with them. They could, market their own record label and their own releases.
Powerful.
So, it really was a powerful transition for the whole industry, really.
So, for example, someone like Paul Oakenfold, instead of the promoter coming in and them taking the door money and you guys being the kind of, the middleman, the promoter being the middleman, you've gone, hold on a minute, cut the middleman out. The DJs, you can create your own brand. You take the night. Were the DJs taking the door money, or were you giving them a lump, saying, right, I'm guaranteeing you every Thursday you're going to get X?
Like that, mate. To be honest, I mean, in the end, the DJs understood and recognised, rightly so, that they're not promoters. Yeah. In the end, it was up to us to promote the night. It was up to them to be content, and content is king. So, if Ministry of Sound, for example, were paying Paul Oakenfold, let's say 10 grand, a round number. Then I would go, well, Paul, I'm not going to pay you the door. I'm not going to do that, but I'll give you 20 grand to DJ. Paul's like, okay, I'm getting double what I would have got paying with Ministry. I don't have to count tickets and count flyers and da-da-da. This is the fee I'm going to get paid no matter what. And that was the case with all the DJs. Suddenly they were making a lot more money, having a lot more control over their identity, their brand and everything else, their music policy for their own night. So it sort of made sense for everybody except the promoters, I suppose.
And and as a promoter, I'd have been gutted if that had happened.
Yeah, but you know what? They were all very respectful about it. They all understood the...
Well, it's a very new business model you've done there. It's quite a ballsy business model as well, but I totally get it. Oakie's getting double bubble. Yeah. You're winning. You're taking a copious amounts on the door. Yeah. You're probably opening 5, 6, 7 nights a week packed. So it must have changed the whole industry. What year did you really notice it change?
2000.
Okay.
Really, the big change was 2000, and then by about 2004, Pacha was full 7 nights a week.
Bloody hell.
And we were taking $500,000 a night.
Bloody hell.
And it's, it changed, if we'd had promoters involved in that, they'd have been taking huge chunks of that. Yeah. And not only that, by about 2006, we had 22 franchises. I mean, we had London, Marrakesh, Sharm el-Sheikh, New York. So we've become a global brand. And I remember the old man when I started working with them, and the very first day I got to Ibiza, he said, what are you going to do for me now you're here? And I said, I'm going to take your brand into the new millennium. And he said, what's the brand?
Did he?
Yeah.
Quality.
I said, you still think you own a nightclub, don't you? And he goes, yeah, we have a nightclub.
Yeah.
I said, no, you have a brand. You have a lifestyle.
Did it originate from that one club in Ibiza to doing all the franchises?
No, it originated in Sitges in 66, was the first ever Pacha.
In Barcelona?
Yeah, just outside Barcelona. That was 66.
Yeah.
And then Pacha was 73. So, you know, he had the idea to open more nightclubs. So he had Madrid, he had Barcelona, he had Torrevieja, he had, you know, other clubs in Spain. But what he was doing was opening nightclubs individually.
Yeah.
And he couldn't see at that time, I mean, he very quickly did see, is he actually had a lifestyle brand.
Yeah.
He had a brand that you could put on a T-shirt or on a bottle of perfume or on a CD. You know, I had to convince him to do the Pacha magazine.
Yeah.
And because we were advertising in everybody else's magazine, spending a lot of money. I said, listen, let's do our own magazine. We've got all the providers. We're promoting 7 nights a week. We're promoting our other clubs around the world. Let's do our own magazine. I'm not convinced. Convince me. So that year we were advertising with DJ magazine, and I rung up Charles Ward, who's a good old mate of mine. I said, he was a business manager. I said, look, I want 8 pages, an issue. Right, it's a lot of money advertising over 4 issues over summer. I want 8 pages, but I want them from the back in. I want the outside back, the inside back, and all the other pages going in 8 pages. Danny, no problem, man. Let's get the contract done. You know, already basically the magazine was making money. So he goes, okay. I said, oh, one more thing. I want them all printing upside down. And he went, yeah, no problem. So anyway, the first run came off, and what I'd done was, the outside back, I made it look like the front cover of a Pacha magazine.
Yeah, quality. So people think.
So if it was upside down in Mambo, it looked like a Pacha magazine.
Yeah.
So it had the date on it, a serial number, the Pacha, you know, everything like that.
Brilliant.
And he rung me up. He went, Danny, what the fuck are you doing, man? What are you doing? I'm going to get fired. I said, Charles, man, I'm sorry, but we had a deal. We have a contract, you know. I can't change it. Yeah. And then, he was okay about it, and the owners were okay. They got it. They were a bit pissed off, but they had to accept it. And then what was great is the old man went down to Mambo, saw them lying around in the bars, and thought it was a Pacha magazine. Yeah. Picked it up, looked, and then he realised, and he phoned me, he went, wow, you can do it. Do the magazine. Yeah. And then the next year our good friends managed to convince Jay Jagger to do the first front cover, and then it went on from there. Amazing. You know. So it was like, I had to be creative with, I think, people that thought they were running a nightclub when they were really running a brand, a complete brand, music and fashion and lifestyle.
What part did you have to play in it regarding the amount of nights there were? Were you looking at restaurants? Were you looking at clothing brand? Were you looking at taking the brand and creating a solid brand? Was that part of yours? No, not really. I mean, I worked with them on that. We had departments that worked. We bought in departments to work on that. Yeah. You know, Ben Turner, who's a good old friend of mine, partner in IMS, he came in to be the editor of the magazine. Yeah. We bought somebody else to really boost the clothing line, because our clothing initially was more like what do you call it? Like a memory, you know, they were coming and buying a Pacha t-shirt. Like a bit of merchandise rather than a brand.
Rather than clothing. Yeah. So we created a clothing line, which you see now in all the Pacha shops, you know. We started a record label and a multimedia department and so on. So we developed that. But my main core, none of that would work or would matter if the club wasn't full. Yeah. So my main task was to keep that nightclub full, keep everybody talking about it, and keep queues around the block. Yeah. If I've got that, all the rest works.
Everyone gets paid for.
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing.
And it works. You want to wear a t-shirt of a club that's rammed. You don't want to wear a t-shirt of a club that's empty, you know. Yeah. So.
What was the capacity of Pacha in Ibiza?
Well, I mean, I think legally it's around about 3,500. But over the night, we put about 5,000 through, because, you know, people come and go, and you're opening at midnight and closing at the time at 7. Yeah. Within 7 hours, a lot of people are good for sort of 3 or 4. Yeah.
Vaseline the door frame, squeeze them in.
Yeah, totally. Well, you know, and people leaving, so 4 leave, 4 can go in, you know, and that's sort of happening all night, really. From about 2, you've already got some people leaving because they're not hardcore clubbers. They're just coming to look at this temple of electronic music, you know.
And when you were at peak, what was the competition like on the island? Because at the moment there's probably roughly 15 proper clubs. What's it like back then?
There's less. There's probably 6 big clubs, to be honest. And they're the same clubs that we had. I mean, Privilege was open then. That used to be Coup. It was renamed as Privilege. Amnesia was big competition.
Fantastic club, Amnesia.
Yeah, great. A lot of history there as well, Space was what is now High.
Yeah.
Even though High now is more competitive than Space ever was. I mean, Space, excuse me, Space was amazing on a Sunday.
On the terrace, fantastic.
Amazing. The best times of my life have been on that terrace, to be honest.
Same. And there was no phones.
No
recording. It's just pure memory, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank God.
Thank God, yeah, exactly. We've been in proper trouble.
So there was competition, but what was quite interesting is from about 2000, all the other clubs started to convert into our way of doing business.
Yeah.
So all of them started to offer big DJs residencies. Yeah. They could see what we were doing. They all started doing it. And now it's the industry norm, really. Again, content is king. You can have the best nightclub in the world, but if you've got Dave Doubledex playing there, you're going to have 100 people in. If you've got Carl Cox, you're going to have 5,000. Yeah, so, it's like a boxing match or a football game, right? Tottenham Stadium wouldn't be full if it was a B team playing or whatever. Yeah. So you need the superstars. So the competition didn't really affect us whatsoever, probably till about 2010, 2011, when they really started to readapt and bring in some of their own big gun DJs, and then it started to get more competitive.
So you had a good 5-year run of that before it started to get really competitive. What was it like being sort of the key man of it, going, okay, I want Carl Cox playing, I want to give a residency, and you're saying, well, there's 40 G's for the night or 20, 30 G's for the night. Someone comes in and said, I'm going to give you 60 G's for my club. Yeah. Were you competing, or were you, how was it?
Yeah, there was some competition. I mean, a lot of it is down to relationships as well. Not just relationships with the DJs themselves, but with the managers and the agents. Yeah. And I had do have a great relationship with people like David Levy and Maria May, Amy Thompson. These are William Morris, CAA, some of the best agents on the planet. Yeah. They look after the big boys. When they think they can trust you, when they know they can trust you, they want to put their golden boy with you because they know he's going to get picked up at the airport, he's going to get paid on time, he's going to get fed, he'll be looked after, he'll be comfortable. It'll be a gig he'll want to do again. An agent's nightmare is to send somebody out and it'd be a bad show because the artist is going to call him and say, what the hell are you doing? Why are you sending me there? So a lot of it's to do with relationships. But like right now it is, talking about booking them, my hard work starts now. Between now and about February, I'm probably going to book, or at least again, discussions with about 600 DJs for next summer. Yeah. 170 odd nights, 3 or 4 DJs a night. And really it's them conversations that will determine whether a DJ is going to commit to you. Yeah, okay. And a lot of that is down to relationships, for sure.
Give me an example of a DJ committing to you. For example, saying, right, he's playing on that night. Is he playing for 5 months? Is he playing for 3 months? Is he playing every single week for that whole summer period? How's it work?
All the above, really. I mean, the best residents for me are a 20-week commitment. Yeah. Let's say you want to do every Friday night, and I want a DJ to come and do every Friday night for 20 weeks, and I'm going to pay him, 50 grand a night, plus I'll give him another 10 for promotion, 10 for production, pay a team to work around him. I'm going to give him another 20 grand for guests that he can invite to DJ with him, and so on. So you have a budget. Let's say the budget, for sake of round numbers, is 100 grand, and you really want to be looking at ideally trying to make about 300 grand on that kind of night. I mean, a typical night in Pacha, if I was paying Guetta, I mean, this was the difference then. I could be paying David 35 grand right at the beginning. Yeah. Then I'd still be making $500,000. I mean, it was insane.
Win-win.
Yeah, and then obviously the DJs got wise, which is fair enough. And then David came to me after about 6 years and went, Danny, I'm getting 200 grand everywhere else in the world. I mean, and I went, okay, I'll give you 100 grand a night. And he went, okay, we'll do that. Again, but the night's still making nearly £1 million quid, £1 million euros. So,
amazing.
Yeah, it's. But again, if they feel comfortable, I mean, I convinced a lot of my resident DJs to go and buy villas because we were renting them villas, 60 grand a summer. And I said, listen, for 60 grand, you can buy one. Yeah. We'll pay your mortgage. Yeah. Now, people go to me, oh, you're buying a bloody villa. What the hell are you doing? I'm actually buying their loyalty as well. Because if they think I'm paying their mortgage, there's less chance they're going to move to another club.
Yeah.
Because they're confident and, well, my mortgage will get paid. I've got this beautiful villa. I mean, Simon Dunmore now from Defected, who I absolutely love, he bought a villa in Santa Lalia 20 years ago when we started together. He's still got it.
Yeah.
I mean, that villa now is probably worth 20 times what he paid for it. So his residency in Ibiza was a lot more lucrative than he ever thought it was, I think, you know.
Name some of the biggest DJs you've booked for Pacha over the years.
Listen, you know, David Guetta's probably gone on to be the biggest star.
Yeah.
What I would call a pop star now, really, as much as he's a DJ. And he is actually a brilliant DJ. I mean, he plays vinyl. He knows exactly how to DJ, no matter what you hear other people saying, he's cheesy and he uses a sync button and so on. He is actually a very, very good DJ. The Swedish House Mafia were huge. I mean, they went on to do, I think, 40,000 people in Milton Keynes Bowl and, you know, they play all over the world. They're superstars as well. And then the more old school DJs, your Eric Murillo's, your Frankie Knuckles, Luciano was one of the biggest gambles I ever made in Pacha because...
Did you give him his own night, Luciano?
Yeah, I gave him his own night on Sunday called Vagabundos. Yeah. And Luci was what you would call an underground DJ. But his music was really, really sexy. And I thought, you know what? This is the future. So I had to go, it took me about a year and a half to convince him to go from DC10, where he was the king of DC10, but it wasn't his thing. It was Circo Loco, working with the boys, which is fair enough. They've done an amazing job, by the way. Them guys are absolutely incredible. And in the end, he came up with this theme, the Vagabundos, where everybody sort of looked like, gypsy sort of old school gypsy with top hats and mascara and moustaches and so on. And the night just blew up. I mean, I remember the old man before shitting himself saying, Danny, you know, is this commercial enough? Is this going to work? I was like, trust me. And I'm like, please God. Please God. And the first Sunday was a roadblock. I mean, it was, and that was it. From then on, it was amazing. Yeah. So, but I mean, the Paul Okafols, Sasha, Tenaglia, all of them really have gone through my doors. Amazing. Yeah.
Do you remember how much you were paying Swedish House Mafia, the maximum you've ever paid those guys?
Well, I mean, they finished with me in 2010, and I think at that time it was 60K.
For the night?
Yeah. Wow. Which, you know, equated obviously 20K each. Yeah. It's one of the problems when you're a DJ in an outfit like that, you know, that you could pay David Guetta 60K and that's all David's. Yep. Less tax and all the rest,
management, etc.
When there's three of you, you can be as big as David Guetta, but you're only getting 20K each. So, yeah, that's something you have, but you do get to travel the world with your mates. Yeah. So
happy days.
Happy days.
What was your relationship like with the owner of Pacha?
Very good, except I had to work really hard at it. I mean, I was the English guy in Pacha, no matter what. You know, I was the English guy. I was the outsider. Some of the staff in there were not very accommodating. I had to battle continuously to get my way. And luckily, Ricardo let me have my way until the one day he didn't, you know, and I think he'd been convinced by some of the insiders that, you know, I was paying the DJs too much, which was, now he knows it was absolute rubbish. And the way we parted company was very sad. It was him coming in my office saying, we think you're paying the DJs too much. You need to halve their salaries. I said, Ricardo, if you do that, they're all going to leave. Yeah. They will leave, trust me. You know, I'm not paying them the money I pay them for nothing. Well, if you don't think like us, maybe it's time you left. I said, okay, I'll leave. And that was that.
What, literally like that?
Yeah. He had to pay me a lot of money to leave because I was obviously contracted. But it was really, really sad because I'd had 13 years of absolute trust. I used to do those spreadsheets in April with all the costs, 5 million costs for the summer. And I put the spreadsheets on his desk and I go in October at the end of summer and the spreadsheets were still in the same spot. He hadn't even looked at them. Right. All summer. Yeah. Hadn't even looked at them. Yeah. He just looked at the end numbers.
So he had pure trust in you for all those years?
100% trust. Yeah. And then I think somebody was obviously working in his ears and, you know, maybe we can do better. Maybe this English guy's not the guy. Maybe we time to move on. And they screwed up, basically. I mean, the next year they went down by about 7 million euros. 4 of the nights left with me.
So did you take the DJs with you and the management with you?
No, I didn't take anything.
No, just going, out of respect, did they say, if they're getting rid of you, we're sticking with you?
We're going. Okay. We're leaving.
Okay.
And because the conversation came out was, we think you need to get paid less. They went, okay, we're out.
Wow.
We're done. So they lost 4 nights. They lost Luciano, they lost Pete Tong, they lost Defected, they lost Murillo. 4 huge nights. And then the ones that stayed, Guetta and a few others, they had to pay more to keep them.
Yeah.
You know, to show that, there's a misunderstanding. They paid them more, and then they had to pay more to try and replace the ones that left.
Oh, what a nightmare.
So, you know, I know they were almost 8 million down the following summer by, I suppose, ignorance and wishing for more, and there just wasn't more on the plate. We were already doing amazing things, you know.
How many people were working in your Pacha office at the time that you were looking around, clocking and going, hold on a minute, there's a few people I don't really get on with. I don't trust him or I don't trust her. What was that feeling like?
Believe it or not, in my office, there was 2 of us.
Okay.
There was me and a Kit or Mark Netto, who was my right hand. I also became my partner in IMS. The rest, then we had obviously graphic design, we had marketing, we had all the rest was probably another 80 people in general. I think a lot more of the biggest problem for me wasn't the daytime people. It wasn't the brand people. It was more the nightclub staff.
Okay.
Right? The nightclubs, unfortunately, are drowned in ego, right? People who tend to work in nightclubs are almost like, remember the guys that used to work on the waltzes at the fair?
Yeah.
You know, they wanted to be big, Billy Big Bollock sort of thing, and, and so on. And so they were very opinionated. I mean, we should have waiters and VIP giving their opinions on the music. Yeah. And you're like, man, if you took everybody's opinion on music,
it'd be a nightmare,
you'd never book anything. Yeah. At the end of the day, you make your decision. I want to go with that DJ. You go with it. Yeah. If the night's busy, that's it. If 2 VIP tables leave because they don't like the music, tough shit.
Tough. Off.
Yeah. You come to the wrong club.
Yeah.
But then you'll have other people going to Ricardo, oh my God, 2 VIP tables left last night. The music was awful. And
getting in his ear.
Yeah, right. That kind of business.
Nuisance, yeah.
And it mostly was generated from within the nightclub itself, not from the external industry that was wrapped around it. They were much more into the brand, into the success, you know.
Did you feel that being English wasn't a positive on your latter years of being there?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't. It was... There was a lot of jealousy. I could feel the jealousy. Yeah. You know when somebody's saying hello to you,
to your face, but behind it, exactly.
You can feel that there's not a warmth there at all. Yeah. And I did start to feel that. I almost felt like the more successful we became, the more that happened. I suppose it's human nature for some people. Yeah. Not for me. I'm the kind of guy that loves. I love to see people succeed. Same. I love it. And then there's other people out there who hate it. Yeah. I mean, even Ricardo, we'd have an amazing summer. And I go, oh, Ricardo, look, we broke the records. We made a load of money. And he'd go, yeah, but Amnesia was busy too.
Oh, no.
And I was like, great.
Yeah, everyone be busy.
I want everybody to be busy because that means the island's busy, right? The minute we're the only club that's busy on the island and everybody else is, we need to start worrying because maybe Ibiza's suffering, So it's strange. It can be strange.
Did you find yourself always trying to please Ricardo?
Yeah, I mean, that was my default. Really, was always try and do my best. Yeah. It was like with the magazine when he said, "Oh, prove it to me." I had to do it. I had to find a way to make him see, so that I didn't have to argue with him. Yeah, I wanted to make him see that, and almost make him feel it was his idea.
Yeah, you got to.
So when he saw that magazine and went, "Okay, do it," at that moment, I'm thinking he thinks this is his idea now. He's just seen a magazine and thought, "Oh, good idea. Let's do that." But I mean, I wanted to please him. And even now, I mean, he's 80 odd years old, not in the best of health. And every time I see him, I could literally cry. I mean, he's like my dad in a way. You know what I mean? I absolutely loved him. So it was kind of heartbreaking when I had to leave. And I knew it was from a very small toxic group, that happened.
Do you know who those toxic people were? I don't need to mention them now, but I'm saying, could you, if you saw them today again, I knew you were behind it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 100%. I know.
Yeah.
But
who were they?
It was internal
politics,
nightclub stuff.
Okay.
Basically. Yeah.
Okay. Did you find yourself under pressure, knowing that you've put a night on, the DJ's there, you've paid them a big lump up front, you're waiting to see how many people turn up? Was there a number of times when you're turning up again? I know I'm under the cosh here, and then oh my God, we've rammed it.
Yeah, all the time.
Okay.
It was amazing. Because, I mean, we weren't doing very many online ticket sales at that time, certainly early 2000s to mid 2000s. you know, people weren't buying online like they do these days. There was no real indication. Most tickets were sold on the day or the day before via the bars in town. So there was no really update. I couldn't check on a link or anything. I felt the vibe, you know, in town when I was walking around, people talking about it or whatever. But I had this amazing knack when I used to go to the club at like 11:45, midnight.
That feeling.
I could also see the cars where they were parked, who was parked, where was somebody rammed up a curb somewhere, and I could, okay, we're going to be packed. And I'd literally know by 12:15 that we're going to be rammed tonight, you know. So, and I was doing it. I mean, it was 7 nights a week for 13 years. You know, for like 5 months of the year. So, I got very good at reading the potential.
So in those 13 years, what was the year that you were absolutely loving it? And then what was the years you were like, I'm really under pressure and I'm not enjoying it?
I was absolutely loving it up until the last year.
Okay.
You know, that where I could tell that there was mumblings, that there was, you know, people weren't really appreciating what we'd achieved as a team, you know, anymore. There was other people there with their own ideas, thought that they could improve things. And it always freaked me out because I thought, well, how can you improve something that is already too busy? You know, and we're at 22 franchises. We've got a magazine, we've got a record label, we've got this, we've got, you know, the brand is absolutely flying. And I'm thinking, well, the hard work was getting it from down there to up here. Now it's about maintaining it, you know, but then you've got other people thinking, well, maybe there's more to come, and there really wasn't. It was about, you know, maintaining that brand. So, the last year I started to think, you know, I didn't feel super comfortable going to the club at night. I knew there was people sort of watching and murmuring, you know, mumbling. And
horrible feeling.
It's not nice.
Horrible feeling. What was, give an example of a franchise that you would, that Pacha would franchise out to different countries. How would that business model work?
I mean, we were roughly, I mean, in a nutshell, it's, you know, between 60 and 100 grand a year to use the name. So if you got, you know, which is, if you got 20 of them and 100 grand a year is 2 million a year coming in just in franchise fees. And, you know, for that, we would offer services. They could obviously utilize the brand, the name, the design. They could use our designs that were in our, we got a huge bank of designs that we created over all the years. They could use all that. They could, also come to me to assist them to get the kind of DJs that they wanted. Sometimes their venue wasn't big enough to get the real big boys, but we could certainly get them a really good quality of DJ. They could also jump on the back of selling the merchandise, the clothing. They could have their own T-shirt made with Pacha Marrakesh on.
Brilliant.
They could also bring out their own Pacha clothing that would suit their territory. So in Egypt, for example, they would do sarongs or typical Egyptian clothing, but branded with Pacha. The same with Marrakesh. With New York, they could do baseball tops or you know, basketball vests or whatever with Pacha logo on. So that was really the evolution of the franchising. And where that started to break down, I mean, after I left, again, they lost about 10 franchises within 2 years. Because nobody's communicating with them. You know, and I used to do a Pacha seminar at the end of every summer in October where we bring the owners of all the Pachas together to see how we could improve things, to see how we could make it better. What do you need? Can we help you in any way? Can you help us? You know, because for us, like New York would help us to promote our Ibiza summer to the Americans. So would Pacha London. So we could utilize them as much as they could utilize us. But to do that, you have to talk, you have to communicate. And after I left, nobody at Pacha picked up the mantle and ran with it. Nobody went down that road. And again, that's why a lot of what happened to Pacha after I left started to fail, because those bright sparks who thought they could do better actually couldn't. They couldn't even do the same, you know. So, but, you know, that's roughly how the franchises were supposed to work.
Amazing brand. You think of it, that cherry brand is so strong. So strong. The first club I went to in Ibiza was in 93, was Pacha. And in 1999, I created a brand called popyourcherry.com. And we used the Pacha cherries And we had student nights. We had 1,500 student nights over a 10-year period.
Yeah.
And we used that brand. Every week I was waiting for a lawyer's letter to come through. Lawyer's letter, popyourcherry.com. It was with the cherries. We'd go in there, get out all the clubs, take all the door money as a promoter and whatever.
Yeah.
But I was literally waiting for, oh no, I'm going to get a tug one day. And never got a tug, thank God. So I probably thank you for that.
No problem. You know what? If you look at all the brands in Ibiza, it's the only one where you literally only have to see the logo.
And you know it's Pacha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the other club logos, some people know them, but the most would have to go, well, what's that?
Yeah.
You see the cherries, you know Pacha straight away.
What's the most amount of money you've spent on a DJ for one night?
The most amount of money for one night would be 250,000 for a festival in Switzerland.
Jesus, who was that?
Where?
Who?
David Guetta.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. No, and listen, David's worth every penny.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, just as anyone listening out there, you're going to get £250,000 to do what? A couple of hour set, an hour set.
Yeah, but you're going to make 2 million.
Yeah, agree.
You know, so it's like footballers. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, it's very, very similar
bums
to footballers.
On seats. Yeah,
it's bums on seats,
yeah.
and also, you know, their life is not as easy as people make out. You know, you don't want to be living your lives in airports and on airlines, and you know, and they are.
Yeah.
I mean, their bodies are in a different time zone. Yeah. Like they're in their own time zone because they can't keep up with one or the other, you know. But yeah, I mean, David, I think, and people like Calvin Harris, you know, these guys are €500,000 DJs at big festivals, and they're that much for a reason, you know. So, and this is what I'm saying about how, you know, coming from a world where this industry didn't exist. To a place now where
creating the industry,
being part of the creation, I think, you know, would be fair enough to say. But now we're at a place where a DJ can get $500,000 for a show because that show's bringing in 3 or 4 million, you know, and that's very different to, well, come along to my free rave and buy 2 E's.
Yeah. Which were good times as well.
Which were very good times. Yeah.
What was the feeling like after having that conversation? Ricardo coming in and said, Danny, we're parting company, mate, you got to go.
Yeah.
How did you feel afterwards? How long did it take you to get over that?
I don't think I've ever got over it.
Right, okay.
You know, there's still a part of me that just thinks, why? You know, why? And then, listen, I've seen him a few times since, and he's said, biggest mistake I ever made. I mean,
he's admitted to it, is he?
Yeah.
Has he admitted to that on camera?
Yeah, no.
Let's get him on.
Never do that. You know, he wouldn't.
Would he come on? No.
He on the 50th birthday last year, they invited me to go to the 50th birthday, and they put me on a table behind Ricardo. And during the night, they bought Ricardo this huge bunch of flowers, and he gave me this bunch. He got this bunch of flowers, and he put it down on the table. And he's with his kids and his family and everybody, and the whole place is packed. And he pulls a white rose out, and he turns around and he waves me over like that, and he gives me the white rose and goes, "Thank you."
Right, okay.
So you know, those kind of moments since I left have showed me that he gets it. It wasn't a smart move.
Yeah.
You know, but...
is he still bang on the ball in his 80s?
Not really.
He's not, okay.
Now I think, you know, I saw him a few days ago up in Macau in Santa Gertrudis restaurant. And I think for the first time I thought, he's getting old.
Okay.
I mean, listen, he's 85, 86. I mean, he's got every right to be old, you know, but he's always been so sharp and so, you know, sort of focused. To seem slightly unfocused was a little bit tearful, to be honest.
Who's running the firm now then? Who's running the whole Pacha? Is it his family or has he got people in place?
No, well, he sold it. Oh,
he sold it to
Tri-Atlantic. Within 4 years of me leaving, they sold it. That's how bad it got, right? You know, so, I mean, there was no talk of ever selling Pacha when I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been treated like mutiny.
Yeah.
You know, it had been in the family for 45 years at that time, or 40 years at least. And if somebody said, oh, shall we sell it? I mean, they'd been off with the head, you know what I mean? There was no... But I think what happened is when I'd left and when Pacha started to become not the biggest kid on the block anymore and franchises were leaving and the magazine collapsed and this, that and the other, then Ricardo got a big offer from Tri-Atlantic, I think 350 million.
That's right.
And he said, yeah, well, let's just sell it. He asked the kids what they thought. The kids didn't want to particularly
kids were like happy days. I'll have a piece of that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they walked out with about 30 mil each or something. And, you know, and they, you know, and rightly so, you don't have to follow your father, in a career.
Yeah.
And kids often don't, and they didn't want to get into nightclubs, and they sold. And then Tri-Atlantic bought it, and they operated it, I think, for about 5 years. Yeah. And then they sold it again last year to the Five Group from Dubai.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's his name? Is it Kabir?
Kabir. Yeah. There's the Kabir, and I think his CEO is Alok.
Yep.
Yeah, and listen, what
did they buy it for? So Pacha sold out for 350 mil. What did Five buy it for?
They bought it for less because they took Leo out of the deal. Because the whole group that was...
They had Leo on the island as well as part of Pacha? Okay.
Yeah. I remember when we bought Leo, when we took Leo and the Pacha
What was the club before we used to go to, before it was Leo?
El Divino.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So, they took Leo, I think they bought it for 300 million, the group.
Right.
That included the hotel, Al Hotel across the road, and Destino Hotel, and the group and the brand and everything else, and the club and cities and so on. But it didn't include Leo. Because the lease is up on the building, okay. I think that would be their reason. I think next year is the last year. Okay. They have to renegotiate. So I didn't think they thought that was a good idea. I think they're getting one thing wrong. I mean, listen, it's their business. I ain't going to tell somebody like Kabir how to run his business because the guy's a genius. Yeah. He's created a huge business empire. I think what they're doing, though, they look like they want to bring Dubai to Ibiza. And what they should be doing is taking Ibiza to Dubai.
Which Tony Truman's doing.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And I think with Dubai tends to come more commercial, cheesy elements over to Ibiza. But I think the other way, Ibiza would be taking a more cooler
version,
sophisticated elements to Dubai. Yeah. But who am I to tell them guys how to do their business? I mean, they're billionaires. So
if Kabir come in and said, Danny, we want to work with you, would you work with them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd definitely consider it.
Yeah.
I'd definitely consider it. Talking to some of the people that work there, they seem like cool guys. Yeah. I mean, at the same time, they're very shrewd businessmen, and I don't think they take lazy people lightly. Yeah. They like to see people who work around them. But at the same time, it seems like they reward the people that work very hard around them. So hats off.
What year did you leave Pacha?
At the end of 2012, beginning of 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
And moving on a bit now, what about the wonderful brand you've built, the International Music Summit? Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, that was a drunken night in Pacha on the roof terrace, I think 2006. And we said, Miami at the time was becoming more about the party, more about the event, less about the business. And me, Pete Tong, Ben Turner, Martin Netto, we all stood up on the roof and said, let's do our own music conference in Ibiza. We're now the centre of electronic music, without a shadow of a doubt, for half a year. And we're like, yeah. And then we forgot about it. The next day it was all forgot about. And then the following year we said, let's do it. Let's really do it. So we put 30 grand each into a pot. And we did the first one in 2007 in Santa Eulalia, actually, in the Phoenicia Hotel. We had a day at Zarro, and then our grand finale was on the tennis court at Pikes.
Nice. Quality.
Right. Anyway, about 90 people rocked up to the whole thing. We lost a fortune, and we were like, what the hell, man? What are we going to do? And then we were like, well, let's just do it again, right? So we put a bit more money in, and the next year it was like 250 people came, and then we could see the growth, and we could see the response and the vibe, so we kept at it, and now here we are 17 years later and doing, 2,000 people are coming, and we're selling out Dork Villa, the grand finale up in the castle.
Fantastic.
Every year. And now we're doing IMS Dubai this November. We've done LA 4 times, and Singapore and Malta and so on. So the whole brand is now, again, very proudly has become, one of the most recognised. I think between us and ADE, Sonar's a slightly different thing, but, we've become that go-to sort of, if you want to get into electronic music, then you should attend these conferences, It's, the difference between us and ADE is very spread out. It's over a city, whereas we focus on one central point where you can meet everybody. Yeah. Sometimes you can walk around Amsterdam and hardly see anybody. Yeah. In our place, you bump into everybody. Yeah. So it's, as a networking place, it's fantastic.
Place to be. So anyone out there who's into dance music or into being a promoter or whatever you are, IMS Ibiza is the place to be. What's the month? What month is it on?
The end of April. We do the last week of April.
Brilliant.
This year next year we're lucky enough it actually falls in Easter week.
Yeah.
Again, so a lot of people are on holiday, so it'll be a nice big week for us. I mean, we've already done over 200 badges.
Yeah.
For next year already. I mean, normally we don't even start selling badges till December. So it's just the momentum's really.
What can someone expect? Give me an example of the days there. How many days is it on for?
3 days.
3 days. Give me an example of someone wanted to be there, what they would get over those 3 days.
Right. So the badge price ranges from about €300 to 400 according to age. You know, we help the younger kids to get into it and so on. Same with the hotel rooms. We do it at Mondrian and Hyde, and we have some rooms cheaper if you're under 27. Yeah. Because we want to power the young kids coming. There are 3 days of panels, discussions, workshops, networking and so on at the hotel from sort of breakfast time through till dinner time. Then every day, the badge gives you access to virtually every club on the island for free before 1:30 in the morning. So you can go and sample all the clubs. You can also go to our big event up in the castle, which is, I don't know if you saw up in Dalt Villa. Yeah. It's an amazing show. If you go to our website, you can see the picture of it. It's absolutely breathtaking. You know, when you think we're doing a rave in a 2,000-year-old World Heritage site.
Quality.
I mean, it's amazing. Sometimes I stand on that stage and think, you know, what would the Romans have thought?
Yeah,
you know?
Amazing, amazing. What's your relationship like with Ibiza Council, the government, etc., to give you that venue?
Very good. You know, they've been very supportive from the beginning. Yeah. I mean, they're a bit tight with money, but, you know, they've got more important things to invest their money on, I suppose. But we're okay. We can do it ourselves. They're just very accommodating with helping us to get the venues that we want. I mean, they first gave us that venue in year 2. So 2008, they gave us the Dalt Villa venue. We couldn't quite believe it. Yeah. And since then, it's just gone on to be this iconic annual event that sort of everybody has to go to, you know. We have a great relationship.
Yeah, that's good. That's quality. How have you seen the island change from year 2000 to where we are today? Like, there was a massive, Ibiza was always known as that 18 to 30 crowd coming in, and then it kind of turned into sort of tables and bottles and sparklers and da-da-da. And then the island is an expensive island, right? It's got more and more expensive. There's more multi-millionaires flying in from all over the world. Do you feel it's lost anything?
You know what? It's lost some of its innocence, but then I think the world has.
Yeah,
you know. I mean, look at London. You know, there was a time London was quite cheap, and now it's insane. Yeah. All the big cities are. You know, I remember going to Copenhagen in 1989, and you know, and now it's a different island again altogether. It changes, but yeah, I mean, it's changed. On saying that, the smiles are just as wide as they were 25 years ago. Kids are having just as good time. You know, the 19, 20-year-old kids are having as good a time as when I was 19 and 20. You do get people my age looking, oh, it was better back then. And I'm like, no, you were just younger back then. You know, I mean, forget about it. And there are still some amazing locations on Ibiza, and it's expensive, but I know places you can eat for 15, 20 euros.
Yeah.
They're all over. I actually, in 2019, I hiked around the entire coast of Ibiza. Over 12 days, camping every night.
Did you?
13
was it 20 by 40?
It's 20 by 40, 280 kilometres, the whole coast.
Yeah.
And we average sort of 25 kilometres a day.
Brilliant.
Camped every night. And you get to see so much more of the island when you do something like that, rather than just driving from A to B, you know. And there's some amazing callers and coves and chiringuitos where it's cheap as chips. You know, you can have sardines, big plate of salad, plate of chips for 15 euros.
Yeah, amazing.
You know, if you want to go to Nobu and drop 500 euros, you can do that, but it's not something I would do very often. Maybe on my anniversary.
Unless someone else is paying.
Yeah, all that, yeah.
What's the score with you these days, Danny? What's your world these days?
Well, I program a club called Chinois. I got approached last year.
Ibiza Town?
In Ibiza Town. It used to be Hart.
Yep.
Right next to the casino in the Grand Hotel. Beautiful venue. Owners are fantastic, Sid and Sophia. I did it primarily because it's a small venue. It's intimate. I don't want the pressure of the big club. I didn't want the pressure of the big clubs. I've sort of got the bug again now, but you know,
it never leaves you, does it?
Yeah, I know, it's stupid. That's why I love Dalt Villa. It's like, you know, 3,000 people and an amazing buzz looking out over the stage, you know. But No, and Chinois is, you know, I describe it as if all the other clubs are supermarkets, we're in a delicatessen, you know.
Lovely.
It's 1,000 cap,
Lovely.
1,500 cap
All
venue,
manageable.
very intimate, very immersive, 360 degree screens, amazing sound system. We got some great DJs. We're sort of a club for the up and coming DJs.
Okay.
That bring a really nice crowd with them as well, because they're young and fresh, and we're also a slightly one for DJs who've I wouldn't say past the prime, but the big clubs are not giving them their own night anymore.
They're still a face, but they're not. Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
but they still bring 1,000, 2,000 people.
Yeah.
So that fits our, you know, our sort of definition of what we need to be. So it's nice to work like that. We're only booking stuff that we really love.
Quality.
And sometimes, I mean, even in Pacha, I was booking stuff that I didn't really love it, but I knew it would ram the club.
Example?
I mean, I wasn't a massive fan of Swedish House Mafia musically. I was a huge fan of Luciano, big fan of Murillo, big fan of Death Mix, Defected. But the Swedes, even David, I mean, David was amazing early doors, and then he got more commercial because he was making more money from it. And I get it. Yeah. It's not my music. It isn't the kind of music I would pay and go to and dance to and have a good time to. It just isn't. But at the same time, the guy's a genius, and he filled my nightclub completely. So I'm always going to be behind him 1,000,000%. I wouldn't particularly go and pay to go and dance to it, you know.
Was there any DJs that you saw change with the more money they were earning?
I think they all did.
Okay.
They all did. They all... it's not like they changed in a bad way. They changed in a more professional and I want more way.
I know what I'm worth way.
Yeah, you know. I mean, Calvin, for example. I mean, Calvin, the first time he played for us, I think was for 500 quid. You know, and I got a call from the agent, can you just book him? We want a show with him. And you can see the guy was a genius, you know. And his album came out and you knew he signed a trumpet that we had in the office for years. And now Calvin is a superstar, you know. I mean, there's no, you can hardly get near him, you know. And he lived, you know, beautiful house and whatever. And he's got everything he deserves, but he's not that tall, lanky Scottish kid that rocked up and played for €500 anymore.
Quality. How would you explain what makes you happy on the island?
I mean, listen, I'm been with my family more than anything. I've got a beautiful wife who was born here, and a beautiful son who's 15 now. And you know, he grew up here, you know, doing all the things. I come from Stoke-on-Trent, you know, which
tough place,
tough industry town, you know, and at the time, you know, all my family in the 60s were coal miners, pottery workers, and the place was dirty and smoggy and, you know, not great. So to see my kid grow up here, I feel like I've evolved. Yeah. You know, and now he goes diving. I used to go, you know, bloody hedge hopping or Robber's Knock or whatever, you know, nicking pop from the local pop factory. You know, he's going scuba diving and playing tennis and like... Happy days. Okay, happy days. Yeah, we've evolved.
I tell you what, Stoke's a tough player as a West Ham fan, going on an away day to Stoke under the lights.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, the old Vicky Ground. Yeah, mate. In the Brit Stadium.
Did you go to the footy?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I did. I think going in the military saved me from the footy.
What, getting involved in the naughtiness? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I went in at 16 in the military. So I think I was just that year off. All my mates were having a little go at it and all that. Yeah. Very professional. Yeah.
Very good outfits. What's your one place on the island for anyone listening or watching out there to go, that's the place that I absolutely love to live?
To live?
To live.
You know what? My home village is Jesus, a place called Jesus. And we love living there. We built our first house out in San Lorenzo in the middle of nowhere. And it's amazing for the first 2 years. And then you realise you're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. If you forget a bottle of milk, you got to get in the car, drive all the way down there. And then our kid came along and we were driving 20 hours a week to get him to school and back, tennis and back, you know. Yeah. And then we were very, very lucky that our my in-laws, my wife's father and mother, gave us a plot of land in Jesus, which is just behind Pacha, sort of the next village out of Ibiza town. So it's this beautiful village with all the amenities, you know, everything from vets to little police stations and restaurants and everything we need. And I love living there. It's a beautiful village to be. like I say, and everything's super handy. But again, I'm a huge hiker. You know, we hike. I have a group every Wednesday morning. I've got 170 people.
All hiking every week?
Oh, yeah. All hiking every Wednesday morning.
They all turn up?
No. There's 100 on the group. They've never been on one hike. You know them people who won't give up their gym membership no matter what, because they think they're giving up on life. Yeah. I think they're them.
Quality.
No, but I've got the 70 of them who do rock up, but normally the group's about 10 to 25 numbers every Wednesday rock up. And summer we swim as well, and in winter, no matter what the weather, we hike. You know, we have this motto: there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad kit. Yeah. So no matter what's going on, we put the right gear on and we go out hiking. We love it.
Quality.
Loads of dogs.
Lovely. Yeah. Danny, I thoroughly enjoyed this.
That's super.
Mate, what a fantastic life you've lived from the military to the fire to now Ibiza, 30 years out here, building the Pacha brand, a proper face of the island, one of the main faces of the island, and a good old Stoke boy with it. Mate, quality, mate. I loved it. I really appreciate your time, mate. Absolute pleasure. You lived one eventful life.
Great. Thank you, Doc. Really enjoyed it.
You're a good man.
Thank you, brother.
Cheers, Danny.
Nice.
Take care, mate.
Cool.
Woo! Mate, that was quality, mate.
Nice.
Mate,
good, thank you.
I got that one. Good man.
Thanks, brother.
Mate, how good was that? Hi, guys. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Can you do us a favour and subscribe to the channel? It's totally free and it massively helps our show. Cheers, guys.